allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday, December 10th, 2019. We are at the Mitchell County Courthouse. This is the Mitchell County Board of Supervisors meeting. Before us, we have an agenda, and we do have one change. We want to move number 9 up to 3.5. So,
And Mark is requested to discuss the Kingland contracts too,
okay, yeah.
with the county attorney.
So, hopefully, those people that are going to be here for 3.5 show up here shortly. Anyways,
This might be a good time just to add, to put on next week's agenda. We'll update our committees, our boards, and I will send ahead of time what I have so far, and you guys look through it if you would, and add, like, if you always meet the same date and time each month, or if you see I have some mistakes, whatever, just tell me at the end what I
I
need
guess
to do different.
on a lot of my meetings, they just forward me when the meeting's gonna be, or at the
But
last meeting.
I know a lot of them are always like the fourth Tuesday or, whatever,
Okay,
so. But I can go ahead and so move to accept the agenda with those changes of moving the hospital up. And what was our other change?
Kingland
Oh,
contract.
Mark's gonna talk about Kingland.
Second?
Barb has moved, Stan has seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approve the minutes of the December 3rd meeting and the claims. So hopefully we've read the meeting minutes. Is there any additions or corrections to that?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Stan has moved, Barb has seconded it. Roll call, Stan?
Aye.
Barb?
Aye.
Smollett, aye. So we have approved the claims and the December 3rd meeting minutes. Mark, I will give you the floor.
Okay, let's review these Kingland documents just a little bit, and I'll just give you my opinion. I just got these yesterday. I've looked through them. I'd like to give them one more look through. The document A312210, that's just the bond, and that's a requirement. So there's nothing unusual about that. That's no problem. The A101217, that's the actual contract, and there were just a couple things I wanted to bring to your attention. Now, I'm certainly assuming, and I don't have a copy of it, but the contract, their bid price was $149,700. That's what this says. They're going to start January 1st, 2020, be substantially completed by April 15th of 2020. The only thing that's supposed to be completed prior to that they're, guaranteeing is the access door from lobby into immunization room is supposed to be completed by March 1st. Now, here's kind of the odd things. There's two odd things in this contract that I've never seen before. If you look at 4.5, which is liquidated damages, there are none. In other words, I contacted them and said, hey, you don't have anything for liquidated damages, and their solution was just to delete it. Now, I don't know if that's, I've never seen one where they just have liquidated damages. There aren't any. In other words, we're supposed to be done by April 30th, but if we're not, no liquidated damages. We just get done when we get done.
So basically, they could almost demand payment to, up to that time, what they've completed, I suppose, and yet again, they could, like you say, go a year without completing the project, and basically holding the bag because we can't get anybody else in and we,
Yeah, what you could do is you could go in, you could still go in and sue them, but then you'd have to prove damages. Well, like, how were you actually damaged? Well, it was inconvenient, you know, people had, but how money damaged? Well, we've got inconvenience, but we don't have any actual money damages. So I've never seen one before where I said you don't have the liquidated damages completed, so they just deleted it. You know, usually
what would be your recommendation there?
normally it's $100 or $200 a day.
That's cheap.
That's cheap. I mean, your projects are a lot more than that.
They're upwards of $1,000 a day,
Yeah.
depending
So
on the
what-
cost of the project.
What would be your recommendation?
Well, they're not gonna like this, but I'm gonna say, we're not gonna sign it as it is. Put in liquidated damages of a couple $100 a day and
Is
reprint
that
it.
enough, or should we have $500 a day?
That's up to you guys. No matter what we say, they're gonna say, oh, that's too much, we want less. But have you ever seen a contract where they don't put liquidated damages in? Very seldom.
Not on purpose.
Yeah.
They don't purposely, you know, there's probably been times where we've forgotten to put it in, but I don't think we ever have. But, yeah, you usually want to put that in there, it's kind of a drive. And the thing with liquidated damages, like you said, is you've got to prove the damages most of the time, say that you were incurred these costs, and if you're relocating people, there's an incurred cost with that.
I think we should put something in. That's gonna be a real hardship on them even just until this is done, on home health and public health.
What do you want me to put in?
$500 a day.
I would be fine with that.
Yes.
Okay.
Sounds like 500's the number.
Then the other thing, and this is just for your recommendation, I've never seen a contract like this before either. If you look at 6.2, which is binding dispute resolution, they always put in there, always, that you have to go to arbitration. They always put that in there.
That's the first line. is
That's the
arbitration.
first line is arbitration, and they've got in here litigation in the court of competent jurisdiction. Now, that's to our advantage, because we'd rather, if they mess up, we'd rather go right to court. They don't wanna be in court, they wanna be in arbitration.
Yeah, that's.
So I just can't believe that they agreed to litigation in the court of competent
Even I
jurisdiction.
know that.
Yeah. So it's, as much as I hate to see that, it's kinda an indication that the person that's doing this either's never done one before, or doesn't know what they're doing, or a combination of the both. Because,
I guess I was under the understanding that this was a copy of previous contracts. It's something that's been ongoing here for the last year or so.
well, this,
In
these
construction,
forms,
in building.
yeah, these forms, these AIA forms, they're forms that, you know, these contracting groups have put out. And they say, hey, if you want to use these, you can use them, but it's so much money for you to access our database and fill them out, print them.
Okay.
So, and what I had said is, you know, and you saw my emails, which was, I'm not going to review a draft document, finalize the document, and then send it to me for my review. Well, what they did is with everything that I said, they just deleted it, printed it out, signed it, and sent it to me. Well, I didn't say sign it and send it to me, I said send me a final copy for my review. Well, they just signed everything and sent them. So, I'll get a hold of them and tell them, you know, I think the bond, the 210, or the 312 is fine, but it's the contract, and it's, is it a huge concern to me? No, but is it a concern? Should we do it right? So if a problem does occur, we've got a remedy? Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Always go on the safe side, yeah.
Well, you are the attorney. You are the legal authority to this. So we have to follow with what,
Well, I give you my recommendations.
We don't have to,
You don't
but we
have
want to.
There's been times when the board hasn't followed.
I think
my
twice
recommendations.
is all, but
Ever.
So you and Gary will,
I'll send him an email. I don't
Okay,
know if he's in the country or not. now.
he is back, cause he called me yesterday and I indicated to him that you wanted a shorter form that was to the point. And I was thinking maybe he would have been in contact with you yesterday late, but apparently not. So,
Like I said, they weren't mailed until Friday, and I just got them yesterday, so.
okay, so, but yes, I did visit with him yesterday afternoon, and I indicated with him that we could not go with what we have.
Okay,
So,
I'll get ahold of him.
thank you. You have,
You probably want these copies.
Since we're not gonna sign them yet.
do you want Barb's back too, or?
You can keep them if you want, just,
I don't know.
you wanna keep it and review it, Barb, or not?
I
No?
think I'm good. I have
That's
such
why
a
we have
pile.
It is it,
Yeah,
us reading
We're
them is kind of
putting our
like
trust.
reading Greek. So,
Maybe like me trying to go out and run a road grader?
I think you could do that. Yes. So is there anything else for the county attorney? If not,
Thank you.
thank
Thank
you,
you,
Mark.
Thank you.
And they're not here. So I guess we'll just work right on down the line, and the sheriff's not here, so we'll go with county attorney. County engineer. I've got that in
Mark,
my
you got a
brain
space in
for
your
last
office?
week.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Okay. You've got a copy then? Okay, I wanted to make sure that's what I was looking at, I forgot the copy. We have on the agenda an agreement for the bridge project over by on the Wapsie there. Just our standard agreement with using our HPV funds for construction of the bridge. I don't think, you guys all have a copy of that too?
Yeah, I got it.
I just need that agreement signed so we can say we're gonna use our funds for that project.
Is that on,
Just west of Bay.
Ocean or,
How is it?
Just
Call it the
west-
Y Bridge, what is that one? Is it timber or is it
It would be
Underwood? Underwood.
oh, Underwood?
It's that. And so, it's a contract to use $640,000 of our bridge funds on that bridge, and that allows access for payment of that.
So moved.
I'll second. To approve.
Stan has made a motion. Barb has seconded. Roll call, Stan?
Aye.
Barb?
Aye.
Smolik? Aye. So that has been approved, Richard.
And with that, not that it's gonna change a whole lot, but I met with WH, if you wanna sign that, I think the auditor's gotta sign it too, but it doesn't matter which copy, we can use this one.
Okay.
I met with WHKS last week to go over several projects we have going on with them, and one of them was this bridge. They're seeing increases in bridge pricing, just because the bridge contractors are busy. And so, we still intend to let the project, but we'll see how the numbers come in. You know,
That's
they're-
still what, north of Little Cedar?
Yeah.
This is the Wapsie Bridge yet that we're talking about.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
No. Bridge prices are getting high, and so we'll let it, they think, just based on the estimate so far, it's gonna be higher than the 640, but we'll see how the prices come in. If they come in and we don't feel that the price is appropriate for that bridge, we can not accept the award and then relet it in the fall. But it's just something that they're seeing, in the last couple of years, we've been seeing increased pricing from bridges and culverts, just because these guys are so swamped with work.
Well, there's
They
so
can-
many,
Yep, they can name their
the
prices.
whole state.
Yep, so
Well, the weather is, the last 2 years have slowed them way down.
slow them down, more structures are failing, everything's getting older, so the work is there, and they can name the price. So we'll just see how the letting goes, and we'll worry about that when that happens. higher price than we think, but we don't know that with the estimates now. When we programmed this bridge, we figured $640,000 was plenty for the bridge, and then we got into some design things, and then just general pricing of construction's gone up, so we'll see what happens when we get to the letting. Also, we have, the WHKS isn't doing our yearly every 2 years we do our federal aid bridge inspections. They're in the county doing that. They might even actually be done by now. But I know we have some smaller short bridges that we need to look at that are potential hazards, so we need to find some local money to fix some of those too. There's a series of them, I think. I'm gonna get it wrong now. Indigo, I believe. Look. Anyway, we've got a couple bridges on one stretch of road that are gonna need some attention in the next year, if not sooner. So,
Okay.
and those are non-federal aid bridges, so they're local money. So we'll have to figure out how to get a hold of some local funds and get them fixed too.
Are they
They're shorter ones, we could probably use,
culverts,
we could probably use culverts and
railroad cars?
possibly, yep, but we wanna make sure with the hydraulics that they're in work. I think they will, but I haven't gotten through any of the analysis on that yet, working with other road projects right now, so.
Okay.
But I'm not gonna be surprised when they come back with inspections and say that some of these are in some pretty bad shape. In fact, one of them, we watched the manure haulers go over and you could see the beams flexing when they were overloading the bridge with manure, so.
Okay.
Anyway, just there's some heads up things that might be coming down. We're getting,
Where are these at in the county?
they're north of Mitchell.
Okay, both of them?
There's a series of 3 or 4, there's one, let's see. There's one here and one here.
Yep. Both of them are.
Both of those are suspect. And there's one up here, up
Yeah,
south. Where
okay.
there's a series of short bridges there, they're wooden structures. Well,
That north one is got a low water, it's got a low overflow on one side of it.
some of them we can probably do some quick repairs on piling to get us by. They call it sistering, they use steel U-channels with bolts through them. But the piles are starting to lean too. The sistering technique takes vertical support, but when you got lateral issues, it doesn't always solve the lateral problems. So
The north one just to the. This one.
yep,
This is a culvert.
those are a series of culverts up there, yep. And downstream from that one is a bridge, I think, or another series of culverts. They, both on either side of those are federal aid and one in the middle isn't, so. It's really weird how you can have a short span bridge between 2 federal aid ones, but, they're getting evaluated and we'll know what we need to do with those. But,
Yeah, that'd probably take 3 railroad cars there
that's probably minimum, yep,
at that one.
yep. Cause I know upstream is either twin monster
I think
sized
it's
culverts or
twin
triple.
big ones.
Yep, there's.
You
some
could
big
drive a
size.
pickup through them.
Yep, so. Anyway, just some stuff to be thinking of. We're also getting, quotes for our roof in Osage here that's showing signs of corrosion and rot, so that'll be a nice hefty, I'm sure that's gonna be a 6-figure number when we get to that, so,
Yes.
yeah, and kind of a building without a roof. So, anyway, hate to bring bad news this close to Christmas, but it's stuff we've gotta start looking at budget-wise, so.
Mm-hmm.
I have
Go
about 3 things to, I'm sorry, you have some. I have 3 things to cover from Heartland Insurance. I had a meeting. One, I'll give you removal of vehicles during emergency ice storms and blizzards. And I'll give one to the sheriff. Is there anybody else that would, do you think it was appropriate that I give that to?
I think we're the 2 that would be directly
Yeah,
affected.
that's who I figured. And then, sexual harassment training. We are the second highest county for not having it done. Only Tama's higher than us? Are you guys still working on it?
Well, I thought we had gone through that, maybe we had.
There's a court, unless you haven't turned your stuff in, there's
Okay.
38 that have not done
I'll
it.
check with Melissa then and find out, she's usually the one taking care of that.
Well, I
training.
said something to her, and she said sometimes
You
she
were
doesn't
here
always.
during the training.
Yeah, I thought we were down here.
I wonder if something just hasn't been sent in to show
I'll
them.
find out.
Yeah, because I thought, well, that's weird, that's not.
So I remember
what
they-
that's-
I remember
were
they had-
here during the training,
Yeah, I remember they were
right
down.
in this room.
Yeah,
I remember they had to take a day off for that, or that they
Yeah.
came down for some.
yeah,
training.
I'm thinking something just didn't get sent in.
Yeah, we'll check on that then.
Yeah, and then, we, congratulations, received, because I'm sure a lot of it has to do with you and, well, and the sheriff's department too, received 5 awards for safety. And, they would like us to get that in the newspaper, so, I'm thinking, trying to think who would be most appropriate, to be in the picture, you and Melissa, because, you know,
Okay.
she has to do training.
Sure,
We'd probably be in it, maybe the sheriff,
yeah, they're
and
exposed.
so
like-
do you
Don't
think,
forget county conservation, because they can have a lot of,
in conservation, okay,
That's a county effort.
okay. So what do you think of, maybe having the picture either early, before the meeting or after the meeting next week? Bring Melissa along and,
Sure.
what do you guys think time-wise would be best to do something like that? And Steve, can you be here then?
Just let me know.
well, you know what time before the meeting starts, you don't know after the meeting, that could be.
That's
Yeah.
what I mentioned to Lowell, and he suggested we have it before the meeting.
Yeah, we could be down here by
8:15,
8:15, yeah.
Okay?
because it only
And then-
takes a click to take a picture.
Is that gonna
Yeah.
work for you, Steve? And then I'll,
8:15.
and then I'll contact, the sheriff and conservation about that too. Would conservation need something like that paper I gave you? They don't really have that much.
I wouldn't think, probably not too much public right away where they're gonna have issues with that. Usually we see the problem, we have to call the sheriff's department, so.
You'll have the information about what the awards are for.
Yes, well, it says right on the plaques.
Okay,
So, we can go by that. Yeah, couple of them are for the current year, and then some are for the best safety for 5 years in a row.
Okay.
So, it's pretty cool. Congratulations. And that's all I have.
Rich,
Yes,
I have this form, AGCO Plus, and I'm sure it's,
oh, is that for,
it was sent for Shannon to sign it, and she thought it was more of something that I should sign. What is, this is
I
for
think
like,
it's-
for parts?
yeah, I think it's for Mark's tractor, is that what it is? I think it's because they switched, their, how they finance their billing and
Billing?
whatever else. We get them from time to time where a company will change how they, use credit for billing.
I guess I do not see anything other than AGCO Plus on it, which AGCO Plus, that would be like Ford, Fiat.
Well, does it say on there what, I know we've gotten one from Mark's tractor, I don't know if this would be, but even if it's AGCO Plus, it could be that, it could still be another, AGCO Plus might cover more than just Ford, Fiat, things like that.
Okay,
But I thought, when I last looked at this information, it was from Mark's tractor. They were changing their,
yeah,
but it's just, they do a credit check so they know we're good for the money. When we
Okay.
get our bills sent.
well, I guess, yeah, Shannon indicated that I should be the one that signs this, so I'll get it signed as
Okay.
long as you've explained to what.
Well, we should have a motion to that effect, I think.
Alrighty, this would be,
Because,
make a motion, or, my signature would make this legal for the road department to access parts through the,
Make a motion that the chair authorizes the chair to sign for parts. Road
okay,
department
For
to
the
sign for
credit,
parts.
for the credit app.
Okay, I'll second that motion.
Stanley has made the first then. Move, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Barb has seconded. Roll call, Stan?
Aye.
Barb's?
Aye.
Steve? Aye. So this is approved. I will get it signed and to Melissa today.
Okay.
Do we have anything else for Richard?
We are still setting on that pickup yet. Do you know? Have
I
you
can
done-
contact again.
Okay. When they had the sealed bids, we still have that truck sitting there yet.
Oh, well, that one they never come and got it yet, huh?
Usually they're lickety split getting that stuff out of there, but this one,
Ring
okay, I don't remember if we did.
Tom Cummings.
So what's the status again of that closed road, you know, by north of New Haven? That bridge,
North of New Haven.
or not New Haven, I mean Little Cedar, I'm sorry, Little Cedar.
Oh, on Hickory, the level B road? You guys want me to put a bridge in there or not?
Well,
guess.
I mean, that's been closed, what now, a couple of years?
Yep. And nobody lives on it. It's a pretty darn long bridge to replace.
I mean, does that fall under federal funds, or?
I don't think that the traffic count in there would qualify for federal funds. We'd have to look back. We could make the claim that prior to that, there might have been at least 25 vehicles a day. I guess I don't know what our traffic count shows.
Yeah, I don't remember what that bridge did yet.
It was just at 25 vehicles a day. So being it has that traffic count, it would qualify for federal aid bridge funding. But if you're looking at a bridge similar to what we're putting in at the Wapsie up there with, you know, you put that on a level B road?
I don't think we can afford it right now.
That's just the question I've asked. We've closed it and we haven't really evaluated whether or not we should put anything back in because yes, there are some people that use it to get back and forth to the cattle yard, but there really doesn't seem to be a lot of traffic on it at this point
It's probably less than.
to warrant it unless you
Well,
get.
of course there isn't, the bridge is closed.
But even prior to that, we had very little traffic on that road, and I know that, now that that's been closed, I know that there's a hog facility to the north that might use a better road than what's there now. If you guys deem that it's required to put a bridge back in there, we can start the process. It's just
Well, why
gonna be,
don't you
it's gonna be a
give us
multi,
an estimate of what it's gonna cost and who's gonna pay for what, and,
well,
well,
we can do that. I'm gonna tell you right now that based on the size of the old bridge and what we're putting up at the Wapsie, you're gonna look at maybe close to $800,000 for a bridge. But that's,
I personally don't think we can afford it right now.
I never thought we needed to keep the road open before.
I'll do some, I'll get some information and then we can make a better decision then if we know kind of what that is. 'Cause that's a I don't know if that's a single span bridge or a multi-span, but it's so better than 100 foot long, I think.
It'd be right in that area. Again, you're working with another low water crossing to the south of it. The amount of water that comes through there, you're gonna require a bigger bridge than
It's
what's
gonna
going
very well
in at
probably need a
Wapsie.
longer span bridge based on new design standards, but, I will contact, WHKS who does a lot of that stuff for us and they can throw up from the hip what they think it's gonna cost. My guess is it's gonna be in the upper $700,000-800,000. You can put a standard bridge in and that might help, because it's not on a curve like this other one is, so we could be looking at $600,000-700,000. And that's just a shot in the dark for me, so, but I can get you that information.
Okay,
I'll be at the engineers conference from tomorrow through Friday down in Des Moines, so getting some education on some new things.
well, is anything else for Rich? If not, thank you, Richard.
Okay.
I'll get this filled out and I'll drop it off with Melissa.
Okay.
Now, my signature gonna work, or is it, do you really need Shannon's signature?
I'm not even sure. I know that I've always signed that stuff, and I don't know if anybody else has ever questioned it. As
Okay.
a department head, it's just a,
Well, I will fill it out, and if that's wrong, I guess we'll do it
yeah,
over.
it's,
Have we ever get the sheriff's other two signs up on calling in a drug, whatever?
I don't know, he's never given me any other locations.
I mean, we've sat on that for 6 months.
I don't have the signs, I just need to know where to put them.
Well, why don't you get a hold of the sheriff?
I figured if he
get the
wanted to
signs.
put up, he'd tell me where he wants them, so
Well,
I'll call him.
but I mean, there's no sense having them in the closet.
No. They're his signs, so, yeah, I'll contact him.
I mean, we've talked about that for at least 6 months.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Have a safe trip south.
Yep, thank you.
Hopefully you don't get into something like they had yesterday.
I don't think we'll have any trouble.
Meet with the hospital CEO and CFO for review of annual audit and report. So I see a stranger in here, so I'm going to assume
Right.
he's part of it. Shelley
Yes,
and Betty, how are you?
I'm good. All right, now is this the hot seat? Because I might want Greg to sit there.
That,
I can sit next.
whoever wants to
Okay,
take it.
Wall?
I shall.
Good, how are you? Nice to see you too.
Thank you.
All right, I get to do the fun stuff.
you.
Greg gets to do, not so much
You
fun
have-
stuff. Although he considers it fun, so.
If you need it for now. No, I have enough. Okay, thank you.
All right, so thank you. Glad to be here and provide an update on our audit and then just kind of give you an update on what's been happening. I did sort of go back through and look, the last time that we had been, or I'd been here, so I have included some updates since that time frame. So obviously, we did a building project wrap-up in June of 2019, and remember that $12.5 million expansion was really to address 3 key areas of the organization. One was more space for providers that we were recruiting, the therapy department upgrade, obviously, and expanding that space. And remember, the therapy department includes PT, so physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, cardiac rehab, and respiratory therapy, all in one area. So their existing space was very small, and so they're all very happy to be in the new space and renovated. And then the new front entrance and canopy. So we were happy to wrap up that project. In September, though, we did break ground on a new surgery department expansion. You may or may not have even seen it because it's going on behind the building. With the addition of Dr. Brandstetter and providing surgical services full-time, and he also continues to expand procedures, it's been very challenging for one OR suite and one procedure room. So that's what we currently have. We do have a growth strategy around OR growth, and we've been expanding OR services, and I'm going to talk about some of those in a few minutes. And as you'll recall, we track every referral that leaves our facility so that we know what patients are leaving our community for, so that helps us to determine what services we may want to offer in the future. And so orthopedic services is currently our highest referral out. And our current OR suite does not have the required laminar airflow to do any kind of orthopedic procedures. And so in addition to that, our current decontam space, or where we clean the pieces of equipment, does not accommodate large pieces of equipment. So the new expansion is really one more OR suite that has laminar airflow and then a new decontam area. It does also add some same-day surgery rooms. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the additional services we've added and then the challenges that we were having in the OR as far as bottlenecks going back to the same-day surgery, because our patients are admitted into a particular room and then they recover in that room afterwards. And so that presents itself with a number of issues, because as an example, on Thursdays, we have Dr. Rattay from Mason City Clinic here, who's an orthopedic surgeon. We also have Dr. Riley here every other Thursday. We have Dr. Diggleman, who is a new ENT that replaced Dr. Detmer, here all day on Thursdays now. And then, of course, we have Dr. Brandstetter. And so trying to get everybody in the OR suite was very difficult. And just as an example, where Dr. Branstetter used to be, they had 4 OR suites and 4 crews of people. So Dr. Branstetter would do a procedure, and then they would, do some recovery in that room, and then move the patient, and then clean it. And in the meantime, he would go to the next crew, so another CRNA, another OR team. And so it would keep him very efficient. And with 1 OR suite and only 1 procedure room, we're limited on how much of that we can do. We have set a goal to get patients in within a 2-week time frame. So, and that includes doing all their prior auth, which probably is the most difficult and sometimes challenging aspect of getting their procedure done. Yeah.
So why are they all coming on Thursday?
Well, so part of it's because of their schedules and what's available to them. So we've moved Dr. Branstetter, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit later, but Dr. Clock has joined us on Mondays, so every other Monday, and he's there pretty much the whole day as well. And so we constantly are moving Dr. Branstetter around to try to accommodate the visiting specialists, which makes it difficult then to get Dr. Branstetter's patients in. So
What does Dr. Clock do?
he does pain procedures.
Oh.
So, okay, let's see here. So we will be expanding we'll have laminar airflow in the new OR suite and expanding the decontam area so that we can clean larger orthopedic pieces of equipment. Mitchell County continues to host both medical students and residents, which has been great. This has been really beneficial for both the residents and the medical students as well as Mitchell County because we get to try each other out, if you will. We did host a resident in October, and we're currently hosting a 4th-year medical student right now. We have another resident coming in February. In November, we had a 2nd-year resident come from Des Moines to do a site visit. We toured St. Ansgar and Osage Clinic and the communities, and I am currently working on an offer for this individual.
When you have these individuals, are they staying here then for like a month, 2 months, or whatever?
It depends. So
Are
it
they
depends.
having a hard time finding housing?
We purchased a house across the street, so we provide free housing. And we also provide meals for them.
Is that enough right now for your needs?
So, yeah, so right now it's working really well. Obviously, we need to do a few improvements on the house. That's something, we're putting in a shower. I think it's in this year, right? So there's some things that we're gonna be doing to the house, but I have been privileged this year because I've been serving on the Iowa Hospital Association board, and I was part of a Iowa Medical Society task force. And rural residency is an issue. We're trying to get residents to go out into the rural areas and practice. And so one of the major hardships for that is housing, because many of them have a lease wherever they're in medical school or residency, and then it's a hardship for them to pay for some sort of housing. So having the house across the street has been a great blessing for those individuals. And then, obviously, you don't have a lot of extra money when you're a medical student or a resident, and so the meal plan has also helped them as well. And they can bring their family with them if they want as well.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because that was one of our big conversations yesterday at the Council of Governments meeting. That housing in Iowa in particular, in general, is quite a concern. And Debbie Durham, the state economic developer, she's even talking about coming up here to North Iowa to try to work on various counties on the housing issue because and they're trying to come up with some new programs in the state legislature also to for housing. So housing's a priority, number 1 priority of Iowa right now.
Yeah, agreed. And I think it has, I think it was 2015 when we actually purchased the house. And so everything just sort of fell into place, and so it worked out really well. We knew that it was a hardship for residents and medical students to find housing, and of course expensive. And so we did make that investment.
And how convenient, they can just walk
across the street.
That's gotta be a
Very
blessing to
nice.
them.
Let's see here. So, like I said, I am working on an offer, so, for this individual, and, I'm talking to her tonight at 4:30, or 5:30, and so we'll see what happens. So, it's not uncommon to sign a medical student in their second year of residency. It used to be in years past that you would sign them in their third year, but because it's very competitive, a lot of students are signing in their second year and perhaps getting a stipend during their last year of their residency. And so we are certainly hoping this individual will decide to join Mitchell County.
Well, let me interrupt you again. I'm sorry
No, it's
for all the
okay.
interruptions.
No.
Before, we had allocated some monies to doctors if they did come. I think we're all caught up on that, are we?
I think what we agreed to do was there was
Another
a,
year yet.
so I think
Oh, okay.
you did one in October and then we're gonna do another one in March or April.
Correct.
Yeah,
So would this new person qualify if,
yes, we would love that.
we haven't made any allocations though for a third person, have we, Lou? I mean, for monies, no.
Which is
We would
two.
have to,
So I'm hoping that I'll know within the next month or so whether or not this individual's gonna sign with us. I have to go through the comp committee at, in Des Moines before I can get her.
why don't we
contract
put
approved.
that all on the agenda for next week to have that discussion?
So she's definitely a potential. We also have some other people that we're talking with. So, yeah, it's been a real blessing, honestly, to have them rotating through. Let's see. So earlier this year, we did make an offer to an orthopedic surgeon that we were gonna share 50-50 with Cresco. And he did eventually decline our offer, but we do continue to work on expanding orthopedic coverage and services for our communities. Tony Luck is a new nurse practitioner that we welcomed earlier this year, along with Callie White, nurse practitioner who joined us earlier. Tony is primarily working in the emergency department and Callie is at the St. Ansgar Clinic. Mitchell County Regional Health Center also launched a comprehensive access campaign called At Your Service. Dr. Hargens continues to build his practice and attract new patients from our outlying areas. This is somewhat surprising, so and fabulous, but on average, we have a monthly report that gets run and we are averaging 156 brand new patients to our system every single month. So I know, let that sink in for a little bit. That's a lot of new people and they're coming from a lot of different areas. Primarily coming from, I would say, there's a good portion coming from Charles City area, there's a good portion coming from Minnesota, southern Minnesota. There's some coming from Saragordo County. Access is a big issue and our providers, and again, we can't guarantee that we're gonna get you in if we have people off on vacation, but we definitely try to get patients in same or next day. So that access, in fact, every other Monday, we review all of our patient comments and to see what our patients are saying. And we've had comments that I'm driving 2 hours to see a provider because I can get in. So access is a big deal, and so we're trying to market that access that we have.
well, and that's something, again, that, like you say, is a tremendous asset for your hospital. I mean, I listen quite often to, not knowing exactly what kind of medical procedures, this and that. I mean, Eagle Grove is another one that, people talk about, that they go to Eagle Grove. Well, you're starting to get that reputation that they're coming here and that it starts to build and build. I mean, as people, like you say, it's,
Yeah.
and it's gonna be an asset for our Main Street businesses and others that,
Absolutely.
this is one thing that people don't always realize, that there's indirect benefits.
Yeah, and and I would say also, I just read yesterday that Mayo's closing Springfield, Minnesota hospital and their clinic. Greg and I were talking about that yesterday. And then they also closed 2 more clinics, primary care clinics in northwestern Minnesota, or northwestern Iowa. And, Mayo's strategy is specialty care, and primary care is not their niche, and primary care is our niche. And so, with the closure of Adams and Leroy clinics, obviously we've been seeing some steady growth in those areas, and so we do get a fair amount from Austin as well. I think they're struggling with some access up there, and so we're certainly benefiting from that.
All those statistics just back up that you're doing the right thing with these additions, and you know, the more surgery areas and stuff.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
I know, but think about 150 new patients every single month. So, and that's all the clinics, so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Hargan is, as a new provider, has been very assertive and flexible himself in trying to accommodate people.
That's
So
awesome.
it's kind of a lot of things coming together that have really helped.
Well, maybe it's too early to determine, but of those 150 new patients, are you seeing them coming back again and again then? I mean, they aren't just a one-time.
We haven't dug into that, but that's a great question. So, I mean, our hope is that.
That they would be a-
Yes,
Well, you're hoping that they never have to come back,
Right.
but I mean,
yes,
if,
yeah. But, you
Yeah.
know, the other thing that we're doing, there's like Greg is doing a lot of work around, you know, sending out patient reminders, you know, the physical things. We have, you know, the health coach, the health navigator, doing a lot of chart prep and planning and identifying the things that the patients need prior to their, you know, coming in for their visit. So there's a lot of work going on around getting patients back in. We also, earlier in November, our new mobile MRI unit actually made its debut in Osage. So the new MRI is a 1.5 Voyager wide bore 33 channel. And so basically what all that means is we're able to now scan larger patients because it's a wide bore MRI. And the exam time for our patients is shorter. And this allows us to provide additional access for patients so we can scan more patients each day. And Julie Brown has done a fabulous job of getting additional access. So the MRI van is actually here 3 days one week, 4 days the next. And so she has done a fabulous job negotiating that because it does go from site to site. But we've had a greater need in our area. The other thing is again, we went from our pre-existing machine was an 8-channel, and now this new one is a 33-channel. So if patients move an MRI, sometimes the images aren't as good with the 8-channel, where the 33-channel is a much better view. So we're excited about that. Jamie Sled, which is a physical therapist, continues to work towards his certification in counter-strain therapy. And I believe there's only one other person in the state of Iowa that is actually certified in counter-strain, and so we will begin marketing this service soon. We also added a speech therapy.
What is counter-strained, did you say?
You know what? I think might be an expert in this room. I don't know if they would want to share anything about it.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
curious.
I've had him do it.
Okay,
I had a head injury, and, well, I had some pain. And when I went to him, it's a touch kind of thing, and he feels certain places, pressure points, and he told me how many there are in the body. And at the time I went to him, it was a couple years ago, and he was only on the upper part of the body then. I mean, he only learned those first. And it's quite a learning process, but he can eventually learn for the whole body. And I'm telling you, I didn't even feel the pressure hardly, and when I left, there was no pain.
I have actually heard of that, I didn't realize what it was called though.
Yeah.
Well, he's very good, yeah. And, yeah, he continues to go, and then I think his goal was to teach some of the others,
Yes.
yeah, to do this. But he got out his book when it came to some areas that he hadn't had complete training in, and he got the book out, and he looked at that, and he read it, and then he went, you know, to my shoulders and that. And I'm telling you, it was wonderful. I went to him about 3 times, and I couldn't believe the results. So, yeah.
Does a doctor have to recommend that, or can you go straight to him?
You know, I think in the past the doctors have recommended, but I don't know if it's required. I have to check on that, Barb, to be honest.
Actually, they
I
just
know
told me I
Jamie.
needed therapy, but when I went to Jamie, he just said I have a new procedure, and that's what he used.
So we will be marketing that soon. So the speech therapist, so we actually have an agreement with Charles City. So we do work with Charles City Hospital as well as Cresco. And so she's actually employed by them, but she's in Osage full-time. And we have seen significant growth in our therapy department because of the addition of OT and speech. We've also seen a lot more children coming back and getting some of those services. So that's been a real
She is an Osage person, too.
She is, In May, we began offering pain management services with Dr. Clock. He's a anesthesiologist from Mason City Clinic. He's coming right now every other Monday. He's willing to come every week, but it's very difficult right now to get space in the OR. And so with the expansion, he may then expand to every week. With the Albert Lee expansion, with obviously Mercy One, Mason City Clinic has shifted placement of some of the providers. And so Dr. Detmer left Mitchell County Regional Health Center after about 14 years, and Dr. Diggleman did replace him here. Of course, we were very sad to see Dr. Detmer leave because he was beloved. But Dr. Diggleman has been great, and he is now, we've doubled our time for ENT services. So he's here every Thursday, and Dr. Detmer was only here every other Thursday before that. So that's been nice for our patients. We also added integrative telepsych services in the emergency department this year. This basically assists us in getting mental health consults via telemed. And it also helps us find placement for patients. So bed management in the state is difficult to find inpatient psych services, and so they do a lot of the calling. Previous to them, a lot of times our nurses would be on the phone calling unit after unit. There is a bed tracking system in the state, but the challenge with it, and I think it's obviously it's a great attempt, but people don't update it on a timely basis, and so you may actually call and find that there's a spot before the bed management system is updated. And so they also assist us with that, so that's been fabulous.
I actually heard about that telepsych stuff from County Social Services. I just see that being used more and more.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a great service for us.
Didn't they kind of bring that up at the forum Friday too, mention?
Yes, they did mention it again, yes.
It takes a lot of the load off the ER nurses and everything. Otherwise,
Sure.
they had to do all of that work and trying to do some of that, and so it really has helped in the ER.
Makes sense.
Staff love it, yeah, to your point. Mercy One and Mitchell County completed a Press-Ganey employee engagement survey. We're gonna do the survey for 3 consecutive years. Mitchell County's engagement score was 4.28, placing us in the 83rd percentile for employee satisfaction. Mitchell County's physician engagement score was a 4.82, placing Mitchell County at the 99th percentile for physician satisfaction. Also, this year, obviously, I mentioned this earlier, I've been serving on the Iowa Hospital Association's Board of Directors for the past year, and I've had the opportunity to serve on a number of task forces, including EMS services, the Iowa Medical Society, and the Rural IHA Task Force. And the task force was basically charged with exploring another type of designation for rural hospitals. In 2015, Senator Grassley had put forward a bill, it was called the REACH Act, but it didn't really get a lot of traction at that time. Of course, given his position now, there was movement to try to get something put forward against. The task force basically took his original bill and tweaked it a bit, and it would create a new designation called an REH hospital. And an REH hospital would not provide any kind of inpatient services, but would continue to provide all of their outpatient and clinic services. And the reimbursement for an REH organization would be better than the current CAH designation. So we have met with Senator Ernst and Grassley and other members of the task force. Have also traveled to DC as well. So we're hoping to get some traction either later this year or early next year before all the ads start and the election. So anyway, so that's been very interesting, and so we'll see what happens with that. So again, this year we were identified as a 2019 top 100 critical access hospital in the nation based on data from the Chartist Group and Becker's. And then following that, we were notified that we had merited a top 100 in critical access hospital patient experience. And then following that, we were awarded a 2019 top CAH designation in patient experience, so top 20 instead of top 100. And so Kara Nag and I actually traveled to Kansas City to accept that award. So we've had a busy year this year, and but a lot of great changes. I would say some of our challenges right now, obviously we had a number of challenges during the building project, just with changing entrances and things like that, running charts, You know, just the geography of how close everything was before, we've struggled with some of those things. We've struggled with some registration lines recently, so we've been trying to tweak some of those things. We've been trying to eliminate some of the, we'll call it filing, so paper filing. So when a nurse dictates, there's a paper dictation is generated, and so so there's a lot of work going on to continuously improve kind of the services that we provide and just everybody's experience. Obviously, you know, when we receive the top 20 designation for patient experience, we know our own opportunities. And so we're thinking, wow, because we've had some registration lines that we have been trying to really work on and making sure that we have enough people up front. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we've heard from a patient perspective.
We had second district supervisor meeting last week. 20-some counties are supposed to be participating. And ambulance was one of the big issues that was brought up.
Sure.
Do you wanna
Sure.
touch on what's happening here in Mitchell County and what's happening with over at Riceville, whatever you know
Sure,
about
sure.
it, and first responders, are they working out like you're hoping and so on? I mean, do you wanna give us a?
So, part of it, you know, I think I mentioned in here that I have been serving on an EMS task force for the Iowa Hospital Association. Well, so the challenge with EMS is it varies so significantly across the state. So we're blessed because we actually levy for the ambulance service here. And so there's a lot of talk around the essential, making an essential service. So different communities have different issues. Chickasaw County doesn't have their own ambulance service, as an example. So they had a separate entity that's providing that service. And so Charles City has also had really struggled. So we get calls literally from many of the other places to provide the service. I never want to say we're in really, really good shape, because it could change tomorrow if we lose some of the PRN folks that we have or the current staff that we have. But here's what I will say, we're definitely in better shape than many of our other counties surrounding us. And again, it depends on, obviously the levy helps us. The other thing is last year in the legislature, they passed the GEMT, which is the Ground Emergency Medical Transport. And so we'll actually get supplemental payments from Medicaid. It's supposed to go back to July of 2019. I know Greg's been working on the paperwork for that. So we're hoping maybe in January. So currently our Medicaid reimbursement for ambulance transfers is, we'll say, nominal. And so it will definitely, it's basically an intergovernmental transfer, and it was approved by CMS. So there's definitely work going on at the legislative level to try to help. But again, everybody's situation is so different. So Mitchell County is actually sitting better than others. I never want to say well, because again, we have some great volunteers, and we have obviously great staff, and so anything you would add to
Well, I'd
that?
just say Riceville, I think we're up for renewal of that agreement
Probably.
pretty soon. I don't know that we're anticipating
Betty?
any changes.
Well, I might just add that we levy our tax certification to the auditor, because we're not a levying body.
Oh, no.
We can ask for 27 cents, that's the maximum per 1,000 valuation for ambulance, of which we do. And Riceville serves about 19% of the geographic area of the county. So they get 19% of that ambulance tax. Now, the first responders, we cannot give them any of the tax money because they're not an ambulance service. And that all came about when I was on board, Stan. They came, and we had, federal revenue sharing then, and they came, and they even said themselves, well, we don't qualify for that, But Riceville does, and I will point out that I get the Riceville Recorder. Riceville, honestly, they have such a great bunch of volunteers, and they just trained. It was in the paper that they had up to 20 new people
They did.
that were going to train for ambulance service. And I wished we could get the kind that that many, but Anyway, that much money goes to them every year, 19% of the 27 cents per thousand.
Well, time has a way of eluding me. Probably it's been more than 2 or 3 years ago since St. Ansgar updated their, I suppose you call it an ambulance, I don't know what, or their first responders unit or whatever you wanna call it. But that, if I remember right, that was over $200 and some thousand, the cost of that. And I think county provided about 20,000, didn't we, Lowell, to help out?
I don't recall.
But
It might be more than 2 years.
But they just simply don't qualify,
But,
what
you
it
know,
means.
again, it provides a good service
Yes,
for
it
that
does.
whole northern,
Sure.
western part of the county. And I really feel that's something that, even though that they don't need to be replacing it right now, instead of waiting until they have
Sure.
a need of, probably the next time it's gonna be $300,000 or that we should be trying to help build it a
We're
little
buying an
bit.
ambulance right now. I mean, you
We
guys
are.
have some extra.
This fiscal year.
I think we have a new ambulance coming 1st February. So it's about, I think it's a little over $200,000 still. I mean, we're stripping off old ones.
But I mean,
But there's still a lot of money.
we're like I say, the St. Ansgar and Stacyville, I mean, both first responders, they can't do any tax levying for it, and so
Right.
it's all a volunteer thing that, which is very expensive.
But it is a problem throughout the whole state. It really is.
But, no, I think that's one thing that we should be looking at is actually, like I say, trying to set a little money from us aside, so that they don't have to get hit all at once.
Right. And, we obviously provide the 911 service, so that means we have to have a crew that's in town, obviously ready to respond. And so, and sometimes on, weekends and holidays, it's difficult to get some second or third crews, but they do a good job of just calling around if they don't have a crew. So,
So we're also remodeling the ambulance garage area
Yes.
for better handling people's state. And that we have some, that's going on right now.
we're also this fiscal year gonna be purchasing a new CT scanner, so hoping in the first quarter of next calendar year. All right, Greg.
All right, well, I'm Greg Burkle, I'm the Chief Financial Officer here, I've been here 7 years now, and I actually also spend some of my time at Howard County at the hospital there. I basically split my time, and I have Gina Goddard, my other staff accountant, spread some time over there too. So kind of have a perspective of 2 different counties and what's going on, and just in general, our financial statements here are very strong, we have a very good balance sheet. We have, if you listen to the news, you hear I think just even this week about rural hospitals being challenged, and there's no doubt it's challenging financially for lots of different reasons. But we really are blessed here, both with the county in general, and the hospital's been run well for many, many years, and of course we have some just excellent providers, so it's kind of everything coming together. And so this is another good year, particularly compared to other places. Just kind of walk through some items, and obviously if you have something that comes up later that you have a question on, feel free to contact us and we'll walk through it. I'll go through a little more from the financial side than the activity side. If you want to turn to page 10. Just kind of lays out some of the financial issues, and I think Shelley touched on a number of these items. One that she didn't touch on that has been a big issue last year was replacement of our computer systems. So we replaced all of our financial systems. We replaced our lab system. I think I talked about it last year when I was here, that we were just starting it. And as you all know, replacing computer systems is a big problem and a lot of work. And so I guess the good news is we kind of worked through all the problems, and by the end of the year, we had that pretty well back to normal, and it's continuing to improve.
What kind of interest are you paying on your notes? Did you get a good?
We did. You're talking about. So that systems we actually paid cash for. We just did borrow the money for the OR project. It's a $4.5 million project. We borrowed $3.2 million, and we got a rate of 2.95 on that for I'm sorry, 11 years. So, we didn't go out for bid, we had gone out and done some bidding with other area financial institutions, regional financial institutions in 2017 with the big project, and we ended up about, I think about 3.25, I think there's a footnote in here, on that debt, but it's, interest rates.
Who do you use as your financial advisor?
We didn't use a financial advisor this time.
Greg, he is our.
Well, we used one in 2017, a company that works specifically on healthcare, called medical financial advisors kind of thing. And we had in 2017, kind of the whole deal was we ended up working well with Bell Bank, which is out of Nebraska, or, sorry, South Dakota, and the cities. And so instead of going out and redoing the whole thing, we just worked with Bell directly, and that's how we worked out this deal with them. So we didn't actually go out and use an external advisor.
So that saved you a little money.
It did, actually. Advisors are, you know, I mean, obviously you can save some money by having them direct you, but we actually felt we did really well. I just did an advanced refunding in Cresco of about $15 million there, and their rates were about the same as we got for this one. So,
Okay,
just pleased with that.
thank you.
Yeah. And footnote, or number 4 here, just talks about some of these relationships. I don't know if you mentioned, we are sharing a relationship for OR now with Howard County too. We actually use their person here, so it works both directions. And she has a particular specialty in working on orthopedics, so that was kind of our beginning. Mentions Dr. Hardigans and Dr. Branstetter on page number 5 and 6. And if you remember, they came in the summer, so really the question from a financial view is how quickly do they ramp up? And amazingly quick. I mean, Dr. Branstetter had done some work in the spring, and he had, you know, actually he was slowed down by our own processes, like Shelley was saying, and trying to get schedules worked out and things like that. But he has come up to speed very quickly and has additional capacity that we're trying to work on. Dr. Hargans, very ambitious young man. I mean, he's very interested in growing. I think he uses Dr. Hageman as his kind of idea of how busy and how big of a practice he wants, and so that really has benefited us. And you know how it is. I mean, doctors kind of age with their population, so he's attractive to younger families and things like that. Of course, just like the other doctors, they'll all then move and age with him as he continues his practice.
So are you getting any guff from Mercy that you're going out basically on your own fighting some of these people and not going through them, or?
You know, I don't think so. I mean, first of all, well, yes and no. Mercy's a little bit like Mayo. They aren't that interested in the primary care side, the family practice. It's the specialty work and all that. So we probably got more discussion about the surgeon and more discussion about the orthopedic surgeon, but Dr. Hargans or whatever, they actually like that because then those feed their larger systems, their tertiary systems out there. So I know Shelley gets have those conversations with Mercy.
Any physicians we recruit anyway become Mercy physicians. They're under the PSA. We're recruiting them for them, really.
Yeah, Dr. Branstetter is employed by Mitchell County, but
Yeah.
otherwise the
Okay.
other positions are employed by
Okay.
Mercy.
Then just kind of go to the balance sheet on page 12. Again, a very strong balance sheet. Some of these awards that we have been getting, there's certainly a big financial piece to that, although to many of them, although it's not certainly all of it. Our cash balance, it actually had gone down in 18, it was up about $650,000 this year. So we had went through all the computer conversions. We finished wrapping up the project from 2017, the big project, and then we did have an improvement of cash. Not expecting that for this upcoming year. As I mentioned, the OR project, we went out and borrowed $3.2 million. It's a $4.5 million project, so we are funding the remaining $1.3 million with internal funds. So kind of have the cash to do that. Then on page 15, which is the income statement, you can kind of, again, we just start by focusing and looking at operating income. You can see about halfway through the page. We went from $117,000 last year to a little over $301,000. There's a lot of things kind of moving in there. One big item that we look at every year, which did not hit us so terribly this year, was our IPERS adjustments, our GASB 68 entry that we make for pensions. And so in 2018, we had to make a negative adjustment of $450,000 to record our share of the GASB 68 liability for IPERS. And then 2019, it was $245,000. So part of that improvement was just a reduction of that adjustment that brought us down. One thing we've been working on this fall and was really fairly moderate was our health insurance costs. I know it's a big expense for everybody. For us, we spend $1.3 million a year on health insurance costs for our employees. And,
For how many employees?
I'm trying to think how many qualify for the health plan. 180 maybe are in the health.
But
I think about 180 participate in the health plan. We have more employees than that. But, and we participate on an insured basis through through Wellmark, through a plan that's set up by the Iowa Hospital Association. So we're in there with 25 other small rural hospitals, and then actually some larger self-insured hospitals over and above that number. And so we, we're evaluated by our performance in the area, but we're still an insured product, so we don't find the full effect. And so we have done very well in our experience. We were in the lowest tier both in 2018, 2019, and now going to 2020. We will be in the lowest tier for that. So I think our increase was actually in 19, obviously this is fiscal year. In 19, the rate was up a little bit because of some of the tax changes with the Affordable Care Act. I think it was about 3.5%. This year it's actually closer to 2% for 2020, so we've been pleased with that. So that was not a big, we spend a lot of money on health insurance, but it really wasn't that big of a difference. The other big item that's out there that's very unique to healthcare is something we call the 340B program. And it's a program that was set up many years ago, originally just for like inner city hospitals to help support their operations. But in 2009, 2010, something like that, it was basically applied to rural hospitals, to critical access hospitals like us. And so I'm not going to go through the complexity of it, but basically it's a program that allows us to get governmental pricing for drugs and then basically share with or work with like a smart pharmacy or the pharmacy in Riceville or in Walmart pharmacy or whatever, where we can share our pricing with them, and then we can get back a fair amount of profitability out of that. So we actually, this is a program, and again, if you talk to Senator Grassley and Ernst and that, they're very much aware of this program, but it contributes to our bottom line $1.2 million, this program. So it's a very important thing. If you looked at what our bottom line would be without $1.2 million, you can see how important it is for rural America. And so we do very well in that program, both because of where our population is located. The pharmacies that we work with are all very interested.
So you're basically the wholesaler of the drugs, or, I mean, they actually order them direct from you, or you get a...
It's so much more complex than that.
Well,
but that's an idea. No. Think of it more as a virtual thing. Okay, so the pharmacy, so you're a patient, you're somebody going into a pharmacy, you do exactly everything you did. Even the pharmacist does everything they did. So you go to Smart, they do everything. On the back end, everything's electronic. On the back end, there's a company that we pay that take all the revenue streams of trying to send it to the insurance company, trying to send it to the supplier and all that, and they run that all through, and then they say, oh, and the reality is the pharmacy didn't sell their product, they sold our product. And they say, well, the pharmacy in there, they paid this amount, well, you would have paid lesser.
The reason I'm asking about this is, I mean, you mentioned about you made 1.2 million. I mean, is this really, should this be a selling point that this is a good reason why I should be basically buying my drugs from let's say, Brower Pharmacy.
Yes.
Because it's actually helping the hospital. When you run to Mason City and you go to Walmart, Walgreens,
We have
Uh,
that too.
you're not helping
Yeah.
Mitchell County Regional. And obviously, I didn't know that. I'm sure nobody else in the room knew this. And maybe this is something that our ace reporter can be trying to make a big issue of in the next issue of the paper, that by doing local whatever, you're helping, you're doing a tremendously good job for the hospital. I mean, I guess that's where I'm coming from.
Well, the vast majority of the money does come from our local pharmacies. Smart Pharmacy is by far the largest contributor to that. And again, they benefit too. It's a win-win with the pharmacy. It isn't like we take money of theirs. They actually come out ahead too, based off of it. But we do participate in national change. So we do have a contract with Walgreens. We used to have them with Shopko before they went down. The one area that we haven't been able to get is Hy-Vee. That would probably be the exception. But we do have a contract we're working on right now with CVS, which I think is a Target right now. And so, but it does benefit us a lot to actually use these pharmacies. Or even if you're spending your time in the winter in Arizona and still using the pharmacies back here, benefit us versus using the pharmacy, let's say, down in Texas or Arizona. So, but
Okay.
I think the other thing that, just to point out too, and that is on the operating expenses, you can see our depreciation line increased a lot. So even though the bottom line or the operating margin didn't go up that much, we had a large increase in depreciation. And so we covered all of that additional depreciation and then still had an improved bottom line. So again, it was a very good year for us in covering that. The depreciation obviously was from the building project, but it was also from the new computer systems, because you write off the computer systems quite a bit faster. I do want to point out our county tax revenue. This would include the money that we received that we then transfer over to Riceville for our contract with them. So this includes everything that we receive. I do want to point out that the board in general sets that money aside toward these building projects. So our intention is to run the hospital profitably without using our tax subsidies, and then to use the tax subsidies then to do building that we need to do. So if you think about it, we need $1.3 million to pay for this OR project. It's kind of a little more than 2.5 years worth of property tax revenue that we're getting from our taxes. So again, I think that helps us, and everybody wonders, well, what are we doing? What do you do with those funds? And so again, we use those. And if you remember the 2017 project, we used $3.5 million of our money. So again, taxes are really being used for capital projects in the country. The only thing else I want to point out is we obviously increase our prices every year and our wages go up. We have been fairly moderate, even in the area with our price increases. In 2018, we increased our prices about 3%, which is what we've been doing for many years. And we actually increased that to 3.5% in this July, primarily because of wage increases we're expecting are going up, and some health insurance increases too. So, but we have stayed moderate in trying to keep price increases in place. I'm not going to talk about, but we obviously have a lot of relationships with Mercy One. The footnote on page 40 has some numbers there. I'm not going to go through those. I would just say most of what we do with Mercy is either paying for our physicians that we have her. So all of the doctors, except for Dr. Brandstetter, are actually Mercy. So they pay that. Mercy pays the doctors. We pay Mercy. So that is by far the largest thing that we do. We do buy a lot of other services through Mercy because it's good for us to buy through. So a big area we get is lab, and so a lot of lab is done through there. We are using our sleep studies. We contract with them. Our nuclear medicine, we contract with them. So they are a very important partner that we have, because we can't do everything here. We like to do everything here, but they really do contribute. So. And that's all I have. Any questions that I can answer? Or And again, if you had some other questions as you kind of spend your time looking through these things, let me know.
Betty?
Well, I have a fair number of additions that they didn't speak about because they don't blow their own horn, you know. But Shelley did mention, you know, the awards that we've been given the last couple of years. I mean, 2 years in a row, we've been recognized in the top 100 rural critical access hospitals in the nation, not just in Iowa, in the nation. And then, you know, we were, Shelley didn't mention that but it was in the paper this last week, if you read it. She didn't mention that just this year she was one of the top 70 critical access, rural critical access CEOs, and that was in the nation.
Yeah,
And we're very proud of that.
That's awesome. That's
And
congratulations.
then, I mean, recently, and she spoke a little bit about it, we also, I mean, you know, 2 years in a row, top 100. We were recognized just recently by Charter Center of Rural Health and National Organization of State Offices for Rural Health for overall excellence in patients' perspectives. We also, a year or so ago, we had gotten an award, or maybe it was early this year, from Becker, and that was for patient satisfaction, and there was one other thing in there. I guess I'd like to say that we have been so fortunate. Greg is, when you ask who our financial advisor is, I would say it's Greg Burkle. Greg came to us with a myriad of experience from who knows how many hospitals, and they were larger, and he also had been in the Mercy, or in the Mayo, so he knows what's going, you know. So anyway, we're very fortunate there, and the big thing is that we are sharing him as the CFO. He didn't say we were sharing, but we are, half-time. And we're also sharing some radiation services and, what's the other one with Chris? Oh, the surgical, yeah. So, I mean, it's saving on our expenses. And then I wanted to mention that we have a management services agreement with Mercy, we have a physician services agreement with Mercy, and we have an affiliation agreement with Mercy. And we are just in the process now of looking at, they have a different way of wanting to look at that agreement. And it would be using their home office cost allocation, and that is supposed to be beneficial to both them and us. It would cost us more the way they figure our expenses, but it would benefit us more because we'd get a higher reimbursement. The one that you mentioned that's in her second year of residency, it's a woman, I believe, isn't it? And Stan, it comes from your area, the person that would be looking at, maybe, and you're looking at signing an agreement. So, I mean, I would think that person would maybe locate, the whole thing would be locating in St. Ansgar, I believe. So, that's a great thing. And then we have been in the midst of a $2 million capital campaign, and we're still doing that. And I would like to say that, because I thought this was just tremendous, I'm working on that, and recently it's a 5-year commitment. And Grain Millers has given us $250,000 over a 5-year period. So they give us $50,000 each year for 5 years. And I mean, that's been a tremendous thing, you know, to get that kind of money. I'm working with Valiant right now, and our banks have been very good about it, and we have naming opportunities for different things. Our days of accounts receivable went down, and then our days of cash in hand are going back up. And so that's been good. Shelley, we have 2 bankers on the board of trustees, so, you know, they're always with Greg on these, you know. So when we look at borrowing money from somewhere, you know, why, yeah. One thing I wanted to mention was our Senior Life Solutions, and the reason I wanted to mention that is that at our recent, I serve on the Quality Improvement Committee, and at that, the person that's in charge of Senior Life Solutions said they were kind of down on the people that were attending every day, and it wasn't because they weren't enrolled in it, but I mean, they, you know, maybe they had an appointment here or there. And last night I happened to be talking to somebody that brought it up, and he just said, I just graduated from Senior Life Solutions. And he said, Betty, it saved my life. And he went into some of the particulars, and it's a matter of HIPAA. You know, I don't know who the people are that go unless they would come and tell me. But a number of people have told me recently that they have gone to Senior Life Solutions and how much it has meant to them. And it's kind of when a person is in a grief situation or a mental health thing. And anyway, this person mentioned to me that the person that's in charge had asked him to kind of promote it for them because they were kind of down in numbers. And do they have two different groups, Shelley and Greg? Yeah. And so anyway, it would be a great thing for you to promote. If you know of anybody that maybe somebody just a death in the family, or they're living alone and they're just, you know, depressed or whatever. Anyway, I know there's been about 6 people that have told me in the last 2 or 3 months that they're going to Senior Life Solutions. And one happened to be a person that found out they had cancer and there was nothing they could do about it. And the person was very depressed because knowing that, just waiting for life's end. And started going to Senior Life Solutions, and that person is a different person now. And the person is still going, you know. And then I talked to another person the other day, and that person said, they told me I was graduating, but they wanted me to stay on because I am such a good person for the rest of the people there. So it's just been amazing, the stories that I've heard about Senior Life Solutions. Now, that is a matter of HIPAA. We don't know anybody that goes unless they share it with us, you know. But, you know, this person last night that told me that he just graduated said I put up posters in different places, you know, about Senior Life Solutions. So, you know, if you might want to find anything more about that and promote it, why, it's a great thing.
How is it paid for? Is this a?
It's, well, they certainly, through Medicare and supplemental
Okay,
insurance,
those
it's
will-
an expensive
those will
program.
pay.
And they don't admit people that can't afford to pay for it through those sources. The person I spoke to last night said they had a high deductible, but it was a person that could afford to, you know, and in fact stayed on a couple days longer, which cost him out of his pocket, just because the woman in charge asked him if he would stay on to help other people. And so, anyway.
Would that person ever consider, you know, writing an article for the paper? I just think that people that have actually experienced it
Right.
firsthand are your best advertising.
Yeah,
We do
yeah.
have some amazing testimonials from people.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think that on an ongoing basis, people really even think about what this program is offering. So Betty mentioned, you know, grief, coping. So, or let's say you all of a sudden are no longer able to get out and about and you're pretty much homebound and you miss that interaction with friends and family, and it gives people an opportunity to, we do have transportation. Obviously, we try to exhaust all forms of transportation first because it's difficult for us to go pick up someone in Charles City and then turn around and go pick up someone in, you know, St. Ansgar. And so we do try to exhaust those public options first. But it provides an opportunity for, one, counseling, but also group therapy where they, you know, are able to work through some of those, you know, just challenges. I mean, as we all get older, right, our lives change and we're not able to always do the same things that we used to be able to do, and you're just not able to get out and about. And it's sometimes a struggle to cope with those changes. And so,
And sometimes group settings are the best.
yes.
People identify with that more, and then they don't feel so alone.
The person I talked to last night, I didn't know what they do at Senior Life Solutions, but that person I know quite well and was devastated by the death of his partner. And they'd been married so many years, and, you know, heard about it and finally went. And he said, after he'd been there a while, because they tell their stories about why they're there or whatever, I don't know. And he said he sat there and pretty soon he thought, well, what am I feeling so bad about? They're a lot worse off than I am, you know, but he said it was a sharing. I wanted to mention that the speech therapist is Kelly Heckstein, and that would be Sandra Heckstein's granddaughter. It would be Keith and Karen's daughter. And so she lives here in Mitchell County, but she is signed on with share it with Floyd County, and that's why we're, yeah.
Okay, should be good.
And the other thing is, Greg mentioned our tax asking and so on, and when we budget, we can only budget 27 cents per thousand for general, which general could be used for building purposes or anything, that's it. 27 cents per ambulance, and then we could budget everything we need for FICA, everything we need for acres, and everything we need for insurance. So that would be in the millions, you know, it'd be probably close to $2 million. We do not budget for that. We budget 27 cents for general, 27 cents for ambulance, and just a portion of acres. So it runs, every year it goes up maybe $25,000, $30,000 because of new building and so on, you know, new valuation in the county. But our tax, what we receive for taxes is something over $750,000. And 19% of that 27 cents of the ambulance goes to Riceville. But anyway, I just wanted to share that with you because we use that for a partial payment of IPERS. And we can't use the money that we do for IPERS, you know, we budget for IPERS, we can't use that to build with. But we use it to, you know, so I just wanted to share that. That's how that whole thing is laid out on the.
I would also add to that is that we are one of the lowest ones within the Mercy One network.
And our levy is the same as it was in 2000. And I said, I don't want that levy to ever go up. It's 1.12816, I think. And it's never gone up. But the only reason we get a little more money each year is because of valuations going up. So anyway, and by the way, the three people, when we signed the management services agreement with Mercy, the three people that Mercy would furnish us would be the CEO, the CFO, and the CNO. Now I want to tell you, it's interesting because Shelley was the CNO and Greg was the CFO, and then when Kevin Reynoldson left, Shelley applied for the job of CEO. So when we hired Shelley as the CEO, that left the CNO position open. Well, Judy Brown took it on as an interim thing, and we kept asking, you know, if she could have it permanent. She decided she'd have it permanently. So of course she'd been an IPERS employee of the hospital for years. Why would she want to go on Mercy? So she is not a Mercy employee. Then our financial guru, Greg, said a few years ago, he asked if he could become our employee instead. And he had his reasons, and I won't state them, but I mean, I guess we had a better deal, I don't know. But anyway, we said yes. So the only person that's under the management services agreement is Shelley with Mercy. And then, of course, the doctors. And we had a general surgeon way back when, and for some reason or other, that person was also contracted with the Board of Trustees. So we would not have a general surgeon, would it not have been for our CEO, Shelley Russell. Because Shelley had worked, and they were good friends. And she brought him here. And so we've been so fortunate. Shelley is so innovative, but I want to tell you, our team is just remarkable. And if it wasn't for the whole team, you know, we wouldn't be where we're at. And so I just have high praises for Shelley, Greg. I mean, he keeps us honest, and he's very conservative when it comes to our money. He's very careful. But anyway, then we have all these team leaders, you know, and they share things. Shelley's style of management is to include people in so that they know what's going on. And so honestly, it's a happy place to work. And I just wanted to share that. I am so proud to be on that Board of Trustees because of the good team and the good management and the wonderful services that we give.
Can I say something too, just in addition to that? So I know this is like a little mutual affirmation time, but I am extremely thankful for the team, extremely thankful for Greg's expertise and knowledge and experience. So he is certainly a great blessing to me and the organization. And the board that we have is, I would put our board members at #1 in the Mercy One network. And the reason I say that is because they are very engaged. They, you know, right now we're going through the MSA agreement, and they are going through that with a fine tooth comb. They have work groups. They just are an exceptional group of people. And, you know, I'm very fortunate to have the board members that we have right now.
Well, each one of them has their own talent. I mean, it's remarkable. I mean, we have Luke Porsche, and Luke and Cheryl Smalley was, you know, she was from the health field. She was a nurse there for years, and they volunteered to be the ones on the committee to meet with, along with Greg, to meet. We asked Greg to put a thing together for us because we don't have any secretarial staff. And of course, Greg, you know, his working with Howard County has been very beneficial to us because he brought some things, they'd already been through this, and he brought some things to us out of the management agreement that we needed to really, you know, look at the wording and so on. So anyway, the three of them are going to be meeting, and then we have Steve Norby, and, you know, Steve's a farmer, but he does taxes. We have Jean Brum, a banker, and we have Corky Fulma, and she has, you know, she runs their, I mean, she's the bookkeeper for their business in Stacyville, and also has her own business as hair. And did I miss anybody? Pardon? Oh, and John Coster. Oh my gosh, yes, he is our, yes, he's our chief, yeah. He is the chairman of the board, and of course, he's a businessman and a farmer, and so we have an excellent board. I mean, everybody brings something to the table. We had a work session the other night, and I'm telling you, it was just fantastic, because everybody chimed in, everybody went over, we went over that management agreement with a fine-tooth comb, you know? And so, anyway, it's just, it's a privilege to be on that board of trustees and to have so many people that are so engaged, you know? So anyway.
Well, we're very proud of you too. I mean, looking at these financials, to have a plus there, I mean, listening, I go to meetings all around the state, and there really are hospitals hurting and about to close, and to hear that you guys are in the black and have some reserves, and it's fantastic. But I agree with you too, it does take a whole team. I very much agree with that, yeah. You have to work together, and
You know, a stable leadership team for us.
and as you said, Greg, it just all seems to be falling together for you guys.
And he's had to promise that he would stay as our CFO. We know Shelley's
Now
gonna
we've
stay.
heard it too.
We know Shelley's gonna stay because they built a house here in town and everything.
That's a good sign.
And, you know, we want to keep her happy too, but, you know, Greg lives up, and his family is in Mankato. And, but anyway, he's agreed to stay until all of us that are currently on the board of trustees get off.
Haven't heard that one.
Well,
Well, when I got on the Board of Supervisors, my goal has always been economic development. And if you want to try to change our decline in population, it takes economic development. And of course, we didn't even have an economic development board back in 2001. But you really can't do economic development without medical facilities and without a really good conservation program. That if you want to try to attract
and education.
yes, but you want to try to attract the balance of the world or the whatevers. Those employees want something to do after work, and they want things like the CRC, they want things like our county conservation with our land improvement and so on, and they want medical facilities. And so that's why, again, and like you say, the schools, but that's why I've been really a proponent of, well, housing. We can't move this county forward if we don't have housing. I mean, it's just that damn simple. I'm sorry. So there's a lot of balls to be juggled here, and you're one part of it that is a necessary part in order to make economic development work.
Totally agree with you. Everything you said.
Like I say, it's just that damn simple.
Yeah, it's interesting, I was at a legislative breakfast a couple weeks ago at Nyack, and they were talking about schools, and at some point, someone must have mentioned that students in the state of Iowa may end up, basically the comment was around, potential consolidation of schools in the future. And one of the legislators mentioned, not from our area, by the way, that it's going to be progressive communities such as Mitchell County that are going to succeed in the future, and their students will have. So I think what's happening in Mitchell County is kind of a beacon, if you will, for other communities and counties to kind of follow. And they talked about broadband and the infrastructure that's needed, and so there's a recognition of what's happening here outside of our county.
Well, have you attended the last two town and country breakfasts that, in the spring of the year that they hold down at CRC?
No.
Okay, somebody should get you a ticket.
Alright.
In any event, the last two speakers came from ISU, and
Oh, yes.
We've been
Yeah.
and both of them mentioned, one said, we were two of the rural counties in Iowa that continue to grow and so on and so forth. The last one said we were one of a half dozen. But like you say, we're recognized as being a progressive, growing, whatever, and they said, whatever you do, don't change what you're doing.
There's a lot of very engaged people in our community. Last week, I attended a business roundtable. Lindsay Falk kind of gathered a group of people. We talked about HR practices and what are things that we could learn from one another. And so I think that's something that we're going to continue to try to do. Obviously, there's another progressive group that kind of has 4 different things that they're working on. And so there's a lot of great things happening in Mitchell County. So it's a group of people working really hard to make it a great place to be.
Well, I do appreciate, and I think the board appreciates, again, you taking time to come and give us an update. You're welcome to come quarterly or more if you like, but we really do appreciate the efforts that you're putting in. And
Could you send me that information on the top 100? Kind of,
Sure.
so I have correct
Sure,
information.
sure.
I have a Facebook business page, I'll put it on there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
see ya.
Yeah, well,
Thank you, Greg.
Moving on. Approved courthouse holiday schedule for 2020.
It's the annual holiday schedule for the Code of Iowa, 10.5 days. Presented that to you last week.
Every year, I continue to explain that I do not like that we give President's Day off. I'd rather that we be here on President's Day and we give our employees a floating holiday when that would work best for the employees. Every year I get voted down, but I'll mention that again this year. I'd like to see this, we'll be open on President's Day. A lot of the other businesses, it's not a
I just kind of go by county social services, because we do have a couple people involved with them, and they do President's Day. I don't really care, probably.
I'm fine with what it is. Other than, we have a decision. We don't have another. I approve what you, or I'm fine with that, Joel.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
So, we have to have a motion.
Also move that we keep it as is.
I'll second that. Anyways, Barb, roll call.
Aye.
Smolik, or Stan?
nay.
Smolik, aye. So, we've approved courthouse holiday holiday schedule for 2020.
Are we gonna talk about if we're gonna be open?
That was
The
one thing I went over there to look at.
I had that down in items and
Yeah.
unless you wanna move
Okay.
it up.
Well, it's on the board now, let's
I would like to
discuss
just
it.
skip that week, to be honest. A lot of, like, I think I mentioned last week, a lot of supervisors, don't even meet every week, and we have every week, the whole year. I think that, not having it when it falls on Christmas Eve, I think people would be fine with us not having it then.
And I think we could probably get by without having anything on that day too. But just in the case of that there would be something that would be an emergency come up, we could always meet on Monday. If that happened. That's a thought. Any comments, Stan?
No.
So,
Okay, and then, how about the 31st? Did you wanna move that date later in the week, or
No.
leave it as is?
We had claims that day,
Okay, no problem.
unless you wanna do it before that.
I won't be here anyway, so no. Leave it.
okay, we'll just leave it alone then. So. All okay with that, then we'll move on. City of McIntyre request for financial assistance for cleaning up the city-owned property. And Barb, I think you have something written up to how we wanna orally have that.
Yeah, the previous supervisors had agreed to this, or I wouldn't be doing it, because I think it sets a precedence for all towns to just ask us to clean up all their messes. But since you guys had agreed to that earlier before I was on, I will make the motion that we pay half the cleanup of the Sloan property in McIntyre, with the condition that it's reimbursed if and when the property is sold for up to that given amount of $4,120.24.
Did we originally receive that property and turn it over to the city of McIntyre? Is that how that happened, on tax sale, or?
I don't know, Shannon talked about that last week.
I guess I was under the understanding that it was owned by the city of McIntyre now.
Right, but did we originally receive that as part of the tax sale because the taxes weren't paid on it?
I don't know, not that I'm aware
I
of.
think they just, maybe a tax certificate. Probably should ask Shannon.
Well, why don't we, there's no hurry in this, why don't we ask, have her come down next week and we'll go.
Well, ever come down
Let's
now.
see
But
if
is she
she's
gone?
available now.
Is she gone this week?
Yeah.
She's leaving sometime today. I don't know if she's left yet or not.
You want me to just run up? I'll grab her.
Okay. Hi, Shannon.
The Mona property, I believe, was a cleanup process that we did. And then we put that as a special assessment, and then an investor bought it. and then they got out of it. So it,
McIntyre property.
or the Mona, sorry.
We're talking about McIntyre.
Oh, the Mac, okay.
The Sloan property.
That was a tax certificate that we got. They did not pay their back taxes. So, and no one purchased it, so then it became a county certificate. And we took it by back taxes. And then we sold it to McIntyre for the certificate for $1.
Okay, so it was really our problem, and
McIntyre wanted to clean it up. They came and asked how they could go about getting it. And then I advised them to have their city attorney talk to
so
Mark Long.
basically, like I say, it was our problem, we owned the property, we had derelict property in McIntyre, and so in order to get rid of the problem, we gave it to McIntyre for $1.
Well, they asked for it. They
Yeah,
wanted
but
to.
what I'm
Yep,
saying,
yeah, but we
we
were stuck with it to
basically-
begin with, yes.
And so,
Actually,
That
So-
makes more sense.
so we have no lien against it then, so we can't really.
There is still a back taxes due that they have not asked to have them abated. They bought the tax certificate. And there's been the taxes have never been paid off. So I'm presuming that they're gonna come ask us, now that they actually did the notice and they actually got the deed to the property, now they can come in and ask us to abate the back taxes on it, because they've never been paid.
But what I'm saying is that we can't stipulate on the event of its sale that we get up to $4,000.
Why can't we? If we're
we
investing
can
that
ask
much in
for
cleanup.
it, we can't force it, but we
No,
can
there
ask
you
for
We
it.
can ask for it, but we could,
You can deny the abatement and have them pay the back taxes, or don't pay for it, I guess. All you're asking is for your investment back if they can sell it.
okay,
So I leave it as is, what I
leave it
said.
as is. Okay,
But I definitely, I mean, I don't see anything wrong with us paying half of the cleanup.
No,
because-
now that you explain that,
Because it was
I was not
our,
aware
it was
of
our
that.
issue.
It was sitting on a county tax certificate, and and they
Yeah,
came in
I
and
get it.
asked to get it.
I just wasn't aware of that before. I stick with, I said it all. You wrote it down, right?
I'll second her motion.
Barb,
Aye.
Stan,
Aye.
Smolak, aye.
Thank you, Shannon.
Yeah, thank you.
done seeing it? And as far as his new hire, I'm happy with the change, and I don't have any problems with it.
Thank you.
Since I'll be leaving, but I just wanted to clarify, because there's other details involved, but it's a great move for her, so. Thanks, Shannon.
Thank you, Shannon. On number 8, approve the removal of three-phase power at the county home.
So,
Well, let me have a little more to it.
I was gonna
Logan
say.
Coster, he got a hold of me, he's from Alliant Energy. There is no need for three-phase going out there at all anymore. He requested that I bring it up here to the board to have it removed so that it's an expense for them to have it sitting there, that three-phase power coming out. They just want to tear it all out. So Stanley has made a move,
I'll second, thank you for the explanation.
Barb has made a second. Stanley, roll call.
aye.
Barb,
Aye.
Smolak, aye. So we have approved the removal of three-phase power. I will get in touch with Logan and let him know that it's legally been done. Items of note, meetings attended. Barb, you usually like to go first.
Okay, mine is so long. Oh, well, we can't move up new hires so they can leave.
Well, we could.
Could
Why
we?
can't we?
Because that would,
Let's go to,
otherwise you're gonna have to
let's
listen
go to
to.
C, the consideration of new hire.
I'd like to introduce Lindsay Eulenhoff. She agreed to a position of a payroll clerk to replace Pam Byer, who is retiring January 3rd. She had been working part-time in the treasurer's office for Shannon. Shannon and I discussed this and we're in agreement, and she has graciously let her observe yesterday and some today with Pam doing payroll this week. So there will only
That's
be
a
one
good
more
idea,
payroll.
yeah.
Her
Get her in
official,
there all you can.
date of hire,
Okay.
when she would become full-time, would be Monday, December 23rd.
Okay. Any thoughts, comments?
Congratulations,
Thank you.
Stanley has made a motion.
and welcome aboard. I'll second.
Barb has seconded it. Roll call, Stanley.
Aye.
Barb.
Aye.
Smollett, aye. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Moving back to that meeting's attended.
Okay, County Social Services in Garner. The Human Services Committee, of which I'm on, will also be the nominating committee now too for secretary treasurer that we'll be needing. There were 28 items on our agenda, most of which required discussion and action. I certainly won't go through all of them. To fully transition financial functions internally for one employer, we hired Janine Scott to help us with this temporarily. She should be done by the first part of February. The staff, with all the transitioning, the normal staff are just overwhelmed with how much work. So this needed to be done, or we might have lost some of them. We will be contracting with the University of Iowa. They have an inpatient area for the mentally disabled. We initiated a software transition with Tyler Technologies starting January 2nd. We were really lucky to get them because usually it's a lot longer before you can get in with somebody. They'll take care of our accounts payable. That was done by Butler County for 10 years, but we no longer want to do it. Medicaid has a special code for mobile response that they call counseling. They actually entitle it counseling, but it requires 2 staff, and the patient must be stabilized before they both leave, which is of much more cost to us. Therefore, it's just another example of Medicaid not covering the actual costs of services. AmeriGroup is, just for your information, is not paying for community services. The big news is we had a discussion with some wanting to raise our per capita due to children's mental services and mobile response being mandated by the state but with no funds. So we showed some leftover money at the end of the year. So fortunately we passed to lower it a spec from the current $34.18 to $34 per capita. I did vote for lowering it. I also attended the annual District 2 Supervisors meeting. All 3 of us attended. The counties were given the opportunity to make handouts on our accomplishments, of which 5 counties participated in doing this, including us. We had reports from the Conservation Road Department, the Sheriff's Economic Department, and I typed up one for us supervisors, and then each county, including each county chair, so this would be Steve, read what we've done throughout the past year. And this took a long time when ISAC spoke following the 6 legislators with speaking and us giving input. One legislator shared that 1 in 5 is on Medicaid in Iowa. Managed care, when we privatized health care, was meant to save Iowa $50 million, of which has not happened and has only seemed to cause extreme problems with hospitals, nursing homes, people in their homes. It was mentioned that 35 bridges will have to close, and another mentioned the housing crisis. And I also had a meeting in Heartland, for Heartland Insurance in Tama. We had some tough decisions, including dropping a group. We were prepared for a possible 15 to 30% increases in costs due to now that we are having so much more wind and hail damage, that the insurance companies are now treating us as they would coastal states. Thought that was interesting. And we'll look at cyber insurance in May, but it'll probably go up too because of all the security breaches, and the defense costs are higher. Examples of what would be with law enforcement, jail deaths are up, sexual molestations, and because they are letting victims come after their perpetrators after longer periods of time now. Reminder, departments with vehicles should check on their values in January. Advice for the conservation from our insurance attorney, Carl. concerning their volunteer board. And I'll pass on to Adam, that we need to actually be making volunteers do background checks too, because as with any employee, and we need to make them aware of it and actually sign it. Things such as what their job title is, an actual job description, make sure it's in writing who they're supposed to answer to, and then your public policy manual should be shared with them. Having them sign once they've read it. Most of their board are not, when you think about it, are not experts on finances or liabilities, and yet we're still liable for them. Carl also suggests an ex officio go to the meeting. Now, of course, they're non-voting, but the kinds of things they want you to pay attention to are anything having to do with safety. And they gave one example as one conservation they found out wasn't doing anything about it, but on their property there was a very high cliff that kids were jumping off into 8 foot of water. That's almost like a lawsuit ready to happen. And these are all suggestions so no one gets sued. And there'll be a seminar for conservation on FMLA in March. And let's see, I already talked to Rich about that. We got a bunch of items to fill out from, I'll just mention it now, Lowell, from Rob Sand, the state auditor, on things like energy efficiency. And so I suggested that Dave Hardo, he's gonna be the one that knows most of at least the stuff I looked at, most of that. And so Lowell agreed with that he could go ahead and start filling that out. Because it is something that the auditor's gonna do every year. And Dave is most knowledgeable in our energy efficient things that we're doing. Okay.
Stanley?
Well, I also had second district. Osage School was hard up for bus drivers at noon. They needed 3 different bus drivers to run kids around and that, and so I had to leave early, which disappointed me because I always enjoy visiting with the legislators and that part of the other thing yesterday was that we had NICOG. NICOG is going to be asking for a 1.3% increase in both dues and transportation, so that'll be going to from 78 cents to 79 cents, and transportation, I believe, was 1.61 to $1.63. We're really in pretty good shape. We had the highest, our total assets are worth $9.5 million, and like I say, to that extent, of course, we got a whole bunch of monies here recently in order to buy buses again from the federal government, but we maintain 92 buses in the area, and so we're still behind normally in replacing buses and that. But that was really my meetings.
Okay, I went to the same District 2 Supervisor, is that what it was? I was at that meeting, but I can't add any more than what Bart and Stan has said. And I was supposed to have a ballot meeting, and I showed up, and I was the only one that showed up, so that was my ballot meeting. So that was my meetings. Committee appointments. I think that would be what you have, Barb, right?
Remind me. Oh, no, we aren't gonna talk about that till next week.
Okay, so we're gonna hold
Well,
off.
it's on the agenda for next week.
That's, okay, yeah, all right.
Sorry, I didn't even realize what that was.
We did the meeting schedule. So that should be done, correct, Lowell?
Correct.
Public comments. Eddie,
I have
Charlie.
nothing.
You're the only two in the public out there unless Steve wants to get up and say something. If nothing else, I
Well,
think,
under meeting schedule, if we're not holding that one, we should, send out a notice that we will not be meeting
Right.
as opposed, I mean,
you know,
Put something on our website.
if there is something that would emergency where we'd have to have a meeting, we could have it that Monday before.
but,
Yeah, maybe
I mean,
Casey
we
can,
send out notice to 50-some people, we should be sending it out that we won't be meeting.
So,